Hey everybody, welcome to the Late Horror Show! Here we are again.
Oh man.
This is kind of a ranking, a kind of lovin'.
It's a lovin'.
It's a lovin', man.
It is.
60s,
it's a Simian lovin'.
A Simian lovin'.
Talking about one of my favorite movie series.
Yeah, we're going to act like
time.
bonobos chimpanzees. They probably have no idea.
What?
Remember the bonobos chimpanzees?
The bonobos.
That's all they do is have sex all day long.
Just like me.
Oh, anyways, yeah, one of my favorite, it may not be like the best made, or I mean, because the movies got cheaper.
They did
as they got, but overall, this is one of my favorite, especially the original. And we'll get.
This
to
was
it.
my James Bond series when I was a kid.
Yeah, this is just like one of the best.
Before I got into James Bond.
Yeah, one of the best sci-fi's. Movies in general. I love the whole series, the TV show, everything. I love the Planet of the Apes. So yeah,
everything Planet of the Apes. I do.
And I'm going to rank them a little bit though. But yeah, I mean, heck, this is one of the movies that really got to me when I was young.
You're right. We did a commentary on the first one.
You're looking at the hat.
Ago.
What's it look weird?
No, I just
wear
like
it every week. You like it? Oh, okay. It's pretty high there.
The little spiral up there. It's like, woo. Do not adjust your television.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Twilight Zone. No.
Yeah, I used to.
Anyways.
So a few of them came out before I was born or old enough to go to the movies, but I was definitely, kicking around as a little kid when they started showing on TV.
Well, the original Planet of the Apes is 1968, so we weren't even born.
Little before my time, just a little.
Yeah.
And just a movie that I had to watch on TV every time it was on. Channel 43 here in Cleveland would do Planet of the Apes week sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And like Monday through Friday, from like 8 to 10 at night. Planet of the Apes movie. And if I got in trouble and I got grounded, they knew what to take away from me. Can't watch Planet of the Apes tonight.
No Planet of the Apes.
They're like, oh! And I remember, I don't even know how old I was, but the very first time I was able to watch all of them, I missed Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I did something, pissed off my parents, they wouldn't let me watch it. No. So I didn't understand what happened in the next movie.
When I get to the ranking part of what I think, you're going to be a little surprised at the order of 1 through 5.
And I didn't realize,
at least the first 5, then the other ones. But yeah,
what we were talking.
Tim Burton's bottom, you know that.
Anyways. Yeah, he's at the bottom. Even the. I didn't even realize how much they cut out when it was on TV. Out of a few of them, but especially the first one, like a good 15, 20 minutes.
Just to make it fit the format of
the
like 2
Channel
hours.
43 did an excellent job of editing that, because I never knew some of this stuff was in there until I was older and I started collecting movies.
Not that it was in this
movie. By the videotapes. I had the videotapes.
Yeah. Not that it was in this movie, but I always loved how they would, talking about editing, the movies to fit the format, in the 2-hour time slot. I always loved how they dubbed the, like when they're swearing, which they didn't do.
Right, but in other movies,
stick it up your poop shoot, and you would hear something like that. And Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that was a really good one. That when it was on TV, our local TV stations, when they would dub it like that, it was a stick it up your poop shoot. It just was.
Especially the horror movies, those got edited in some really interesting ways.
Yeah.
And but I mean, talking Planet of the Apes, I mean, sometimes it would be on a Saturday afternoon, but most of the time it would be like Planet of the Apes week, and then they would do Planet of the Apes week 2, where they would take 2 episodes from the short-lived 70s TV series and put them together. Yeah. And I'd have to watch all those too. So
this spun off into a TV series too, where
which really doesn't fit in the canon, at least according to but
Well, I mean, the series actually, of course, Roddy McDowall played in every movie,
except the second one. He wasn't in Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Well, right, yeah. Because that was a whole, which we'll talk about.
You know what?
He played Galen.
Oh, in the TV
which
series.
Was it wasn't the same storyline as the movies.
No, it didn't really fit into the same continuity. It was like a different sort of continuity because
right.
I mean, because humans could talk and it just wasn't quite the same,
It's more of a Starsky and Hutch meets the Planet of the Apes.
Wow, I never thought of it that way, but you are absolutely right.
Kind of movie. that 70s vibe going on there. But,
so we have Planet of the Apes.
But I loved it. I loved the series too. And when Sci-Fi Channel did a whole played them all. Oh,
That was exciting because they... I think it was Sci-Fi Channel because that was the first time that they had them in widescreen on TV.
Right, yeah.
It was like a Labor Day weekend.
Yep.
I think you were coming over for a cookout or something over at my ex-girlfriend's house at the time.
Could be, yeah.
And I was recording them. And then they showed this really... Actually, I see it on your screen right there, that Behind the Planet of the Apes, it was like a big 2-hour documentary about all of them with Roddy McDowall before he passed away.
Yeah.
And it was just fantastic. It went really in-depth on all of them. And yeah, he was wonderful in the first one, and I guess like it was just really hard on his skin, you know, all that makeup, because this was some Academy Award winning makeup, by the way.
For the time,
and he didn't come back for the second one, but he did come back for all the others. Just, you know, it was a real challenge.
Yeah, all the others. Yeah.
And you know, he would get the other actors, you know, showing them how to do the, you know, the squinches and get that.
Roddy McDowall, man, his portrayal of the
hunched
apes,
walk.
You know, we're just so good. And you know what? It doesn't fit any other kind of film, really, with apes or anything. I mean, you know, the way they, you know, the makeup, the suits, the way they walked, you know, they really, you know, it's a movie that stands alone, you know.
It's got its own mythology. I mean,
it's
their own religion, their own society, the way that society's broken down, where, you know, the gorillas are militaristic, the orangutans are kind of like the
scholars,
keepers of the law,
keepers
and the
of the
scholars,
law, yeah.
and the chimpanzees are the scientists.
The law. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's funny how their society's broken down like that, and you know, their real origins are hidden from them, which is what we find out in the first film.
Yeah.
Where, you know, an astronaut lands on a planet that he thinks is an alien planet, ruled by apes that just happen to speak English. It has been my first clue.
Yeah, how strange that they speak English. But
and humans have reverted back to primitives. And just, you know, when you first see them...
Primitive, but you come to find out that, you know, their tongues are basically cut off, or vocal. I mean,
no,
there's a lot of
they do certain experimental surgery on some of them.
You're right. The wild ones out. No, okay. Yeah,
but they do experimental surgery on some of them and all that. You know, they're always trying to figure out why can't they talk. You know, they're intelligent creatures. Why? You know,
no, you're
just
right.
Like us with apes. You know?
One of my favorites, and I missed that big.
That's okay.
To do in the movie, but
that's all right. It's all right. And then, you know,
lots of love in that movie.
By the end of the film. I mean, everybody knows how the film ends. I mean, it's usually on the cover of the box, which is terrible. But, you know, where Charlton Heston's character realizes that he's back on Earth, you know. I won't give it away because I don't want to spoil. Because it is, if you've never seen it, it is a great ending. It's one of the best endings.
Oh, hell
and if you're a fan of Twilight Zone, you can tell that Rod Serling helped write this because he did. You know, he did. He helped write that. And it's a total Twilight Zone ending. But, you know, when he realizes he's back on Earth and that somehow, you know, we must have, you know, finally did it. You know, we blew everything up. And you know, the apes inherited the Earth. And
blew them all to hell.
Damn you all to hell. Yes.
Which is iconic in pop culture history now. You know, I mean. And can I just say, Nova.
Oh, all the characters. Yeah, Nova.
She was
Linda Harrison.
Oh my God!
Yeah, ended up marrying one of the heads of 20th Century Fox. Didn't have to do no acting anymore after that. So after the first two.
So it was Cornelius.
Yes,
Roddy McDowall. Who was played by Roddy McDowall, the main ape, and Zira. Kim Hunter, who were both married there.
We had Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, who, was originally supposed to be played by Edward G. Robinson.
And on the Blu-ray, or maybe in that documentary we were just mentioning, they do show some of the footage. He did have the makeup on.
Oh yeah,
they do have screen tests of him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he passed. No, I don't think he passed. No, he didn't pass away yet. Just for some reason he passed on doing it for some reason. And then they got Maurice Evans.
Whether it be the makeup or like how tough it was going to be.
A lot of actors were very daunted by that. I mean, it was a long process putting it on, which got better as time went on.
Right.
I'm sure it was very uncomfortable and itchy and hot, and you know, everybody smoked back then. You can't smoke with that stuff on there. You know, you had to have the big long filter things on there. I've got pictures. I used to buy the Planet of the Apes magazine. I used to have every issue.
Yeah, and I have the cards. I still have the cards. Not the whole collection.
The Planet of the Apes magazine, which again started like after the movies were all done. They had 2 comic book series. They had an adaptation of one of the movies that would run in serial form every month, and then they did their own original story, which was pretty cool.
Right.
And in between, and you can actually buy those in omnibus editions, but it's just the comics.
Omnibus?
Like big volumes, hardcover volumes. They're called omnibus.
Right.
An omnibus.
I know.
You throw me off sometimes.
Omnibus.
You get that look like that.
Everybody, come on, omnibus.
But in between the two comic stories, there'd be lots of articles from the actors and about the makeup, and I learned everything there was
That's
to
what
know
was great about those magazines.
Those aren't included in there,
and
that's what I like about. I got a collection of PDFs, the entire series of House of Hammer, Horror of Hammer. Magazine from the UK.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. They have like two...
Which I got too.
Yeah, of course. I had to share the love. And they adapt some of the movies in comic book form. And then in between, there's tons of articles, not just on Hammer movies, but just horror movies in general.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how one of the first issues, they review Texas Chainsaw Massacre when it first came out. And this is a British magazine, and they give it a scathing review. And, I almost see their point when they mention it. When you'd have to read the article to see their point of view on it. But I can't fault them for anything they said. My opinion might be different. But,
right.
But it is, it's kind of interesting to read a review from way back then.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about movies that are coming out, and they mention, from American graffiti director George Lucas coming a space science fiction epic.
If you can get a hold of any of those old...
the
magazines,
Hammer, House of Horror.
Even what are some of the old, even the old Fangorias and stuff like that? Go ahead and read those.
Fantastic Monsters of Filmland. Yeah. Scary Monsters is still
the golden age.
That's a good one.
Of the big comic. It's all great.
Some of those magazines are good. And I used to get them in the quarter bin at the comic book shop. I didn't have them all off the newsstand when they first came out. I picked them up dirt cheap back in the day. So, and I was such a huge fan. I always wanted to read them, and I had them all.
Yeah.
So then after, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was going to just talk about how the love that came from this movie. Like when I was. After seeing the movie, I was just always enthralled with apes really taking over the earth,
or just even apes in general, just learning about them.
Yes, I'm going. They're smart.
They're still the favorite animals at the zoo to go, watch. I can stand there for long time.
But as a kid, I'm thinking, it's possible that they can learn to speak and maybe one day become servants, which eventually you get to in the later movie and stuff like that. And I'm like. That would be just so awesome. And for some reason...
if that ever happens, I just got to show people Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. And look what's going to happen.
And a big scene that came out of this was with the council, the judges. When they were doing the speak no evil, hear no evil.
Right, they got Charlton Heston's character on trial.
Yeah.
And I think they did it on purpose, but if you're not really paying attention, you won't notice. But one of them's got his fingers in his ears, one of them's got his hands over his eyes, one of them's
it was great. There's scenes like that, in the movie,
and some classic quotes, like "Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape."
And that's another.
I never met an ape I didn't like.
Right. and funny thing is, Charlton Heston has been in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
He's not, and I'm going on, he's not, even though people put him on a pedestal.
He's not a great actor.
He's not a great actor.
Well, he's old school. That old school was kind of wooden, and that...
What gets him by, though, is the characters he takes in these movies. Like Omega Man.
Yeah.
I mean...
Soylent
Green. He picks great movies, characters, and he becomes iconic for it. Because, he's not
one of my favorites.
He overacts and all that, but it works.
He's
in
old
these
school
movies.
Hollywood.
He's
old school Hollywood.
Which takes us to the second film, Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Doesn't get a lot of love, but I like it.
It's one of my lesser. Out of the 5 original.
What happens in this one, just to briefly sum up, is
maybe because Cornelius ain't in it, but anyway.
Well, his character's in it, but it's not Roddy McDowall, and for that matter, they're only in it for a few minutes.
Right.
But another astronaut crash lands again in the future, same thing. And
again, I love it. I love the movie,
Taylor.
But the lesser of all of them, I think, in my opinion. But anyways,
meets up with Nova.
Yeah.
meets up with Cornelius, and Zira finds out where Taylor went. They start going that way. In the meantime, because of the events of the first film, the apes are talking about, because they think, most of them think, Taylor came from, Charlton Heston's character from the first one, came from someplace beyond this forbidden zone. It's a radioactive, desolate area that used to be like New York City. And they want to march through there and see if there's, green pastures beyond that they can claim for their own.
Because they've lived underground for...
Well, these humans that are there, yes.
Yeah. And you were talking about the others.
Right, and we do find that there is a civilization of mutated humans that have telepathic powers,
mental capabilities,
and they wear skin masks over them when they take their face off. They're all mutated.
You mean their mask off?
Their mask off to their face off.
Take their face off.
And they worship...
John Travolta, Nick Cage,
they worship an atomic bomb. That's their god. The Alpha Omega bomb, which was the be-all, end-all bomb.
Right.
And through a series of events, they find Taylor. He's prisoner by these guys. He got captured by them.
Yep.
And the apes are invading. They're pulling the bomb down. Zeus and Taylor meet again. And Taylor, he gets shot, but the last thing he does is hits the button for that bomb to go off. And, there's the voiceover saying, an insignificant blue little dot is now dead, and, something like that.
Destruction of the planet.
Destroyed the world.
Yeah.
And you know what? But some of the imagery in it, like when they're marching through the Forbidden Zone, and there's the mutants are making these images of, gorillas crucified upside down.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just wicked. Oh, yeah. That's wicked. That's a G-rated movie.
Right. Those quick little glimpses are really
I like
cool.
it. I like Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I think the first one and the second one together, if they had never made any more, tell a cool story.
It does. It's one of those things that can close easily. But they jump to a third film.
And that one goes bonkers.
And, well, I mean, they take, it's called Escape from the Planet of the Apes, 1971, and
what a great beginning it's got.
Well, it's Cornelius and Zira somehow get in the spaceship and
kind of come back to the 1970s,
right, in time. Back to planet Earth,
right.
Like
and I love the beginning. The ship crashes in the water. The military's all there. They're getting the ship on the shore. They think it's Taylor's ship because that's what happened. They used Taylor's ship to escape from the war that was happening in the second film. And they're like, gentlemen, welcome back to the United States. And then they take their helmets off.
I love it. And they take the helmets off.
And it's apes.
It's apes. Cornelius and Zira. And they're not speaking. Mm-hmm. They don't speak.
Very wise.
But they take it off and they're looking and they're just like, whoa. But that scene when they take the helmets off, classic. I love it. You get that
classic 70s music.
It's 70s everything because it's set on set on Earth.
I can't remember when that film came out. Was it 71, 72?
71.
Early
71.
70s. Yeah. I think this was the last one that came out in the theaters before I was born. I think I was around for the other two. But was still too young to go see them.
But I think this is still. I mean, this was a really good movie. I mean, they're all good movies, but this one
it kind of reverses.
And
they get a little taste of what it was like for Taylor, coming,
and the other star of the film, who's the jackass, the guy who's working for the government. I forget his name.
Dr. Hasseline.
Hasseline?
Yes.
Eric.
Otto
it doesn't
Hasseline.
Matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what his name is, but he is basically wants to kill them.
Well, once
they find out
that they can talk.
Yeah. Which is a cool scene too.
Yes.
Because when they put them in the bars and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're at the zoo, and a couple of the veteran. Like, what are they, animal psychologists?
Yeah, they're trying to see how smart they are.
Well, because they arrived with their own clothes, a suitcase.
Yeah.
They're very smart.
Yeah, they think they're trained chimps.
And one of them puts a banana up there and gives her some blocks to figure out how to make, like, a staircase to get the banana. And she puts the staircase together, gets up there, and just sits there and looks at it.
And she's, like, proud that she does it. She's like...
But then she's like, well, why doesn't she take it? She's like, because I loathe bananas.
Yeah.
and
Cornelius goes, oh, Sarah.
Right. And even when they're having the inquiry in front of like the government panel, because they know the female can talk, but they haven't heard Cornelius talk yet. Yeah. And the guy says, does the male talk too? And he stands up and is like, only when she lets me. And
great scene.
Through these interrogations that they go through, they find out that the apes are from their future.
Right.
And this Dr. Hassline is obsessed with finding out what happens. And
he even shoots up Zero with what was it?
Like a truth serum.
Yeah, but what's it called that they always used back then?
What, like sodium pentothal?
I think that's yeah. It was sodium. Yeah.
And he's trying to stop it. I mean, what it basically comes down to is that at first they tell him, okay, we're going to keep them in some military base the rest of their life, but they'll be allowed to live. Yeah. They find out Zira's pregnant. That changes everything.
And that's, in my world, that changed everything because the movie that comes next. But anyways,
that changed everything because this could conceivably be how the ball got rolling.
Yeah.
And even though they told the story during the inquiry that there was a gorilla named Aldo.
Yeah.
And that they were slaves, they were doing servant work, and finally they became aware that they were being mistreated and being treated as slaves, and started to organize. And one of the apes finally had, I forget exactly, I think I remember exactly how he says it. He spoke a word that had been said to him time without number. He said no.
Yeah.
All right, and that's how it started. But now that they've come back into the past, that has changed the timeline.
Right.
And it's going to be, what they're concerned is it's their child that's going to start, and it's going to start at a whole lot sooner than what they thought.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome storyline concept. And I love that, going into the third movie, which, they came up with the whole idea.
It's all about trying to kill them, they escape, and the man.
And the very ending when they,
gut-wrenching.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, they switch. It's spoiler.
They're all assassinated.
Yeah, I mean, basically. Spoiler.
Baby, mother, and father.
Yeah, Cornelius, Zira both get shot.
But she has to give birth.
But they switch the baby apes.
At a circus.
Which is run by none other than Ricardo Montalban.
Khan, if you know your Star Trek. Khan.
But,
or Fantasy Island.
Yeah, which this is at the very ending of the film because they knew they were going to continue this on to the greatest of all of the Planet of the Apes movies, in my opinion.
Second greatest for me.
And we'll go right to Conquest of the Planet of the Apes,
which takes place 20 years later in the year 1991.
Yes,
this is.
I love the futuristic stuff when they do this back in the 70s.
And America has sort of become almost a fascist kind of. The government seems very fascist.
1984, like.
Yes.
Very government.
Apes are being conditioned, brought in, imported, conditioned, sold, doing all the tasks that they talked about in the third film.
Yeah.
Cooking, doing the marketing, cleaning tables.
Slaves. I mean, that's basically.
Well, right. They go to like ape control, and you see the different things.
And it's right how they start the whole film.
It starts right into that.
Boom,
teaching them how to mop, conditioning them to fire so that they can cook.
Yeah.
And Ricardo Montalban, who plays
brings the baby. Yeah.
I'm sorry. His character's name is. Why does it escape me? Armand.
Yeah, Armand. That's
Armand.
Right. Yeah.
Armando has kept Caesar hidden in the circus, knowing what will likely happen to him someday.
Yeah.
Or at least knowing what his fate will be, but at the same time trying to protect him for as long as he can.
Possible. Yeah.
And he's, the circus just happens to be in town, and they're going to deliver some flyers, and. I remember he's even teaching him how to walk like a primitive ape. He's like, you've been with me for 20 years. You've picked up a lot of bad habits. You gotta,
you gotta act more like a real ape. Right. Which is funny because when he tries to act like a real ape, you can tell it's like he acts like a human, faking being an ape. I mean, it's so.
And even though the makeup's a little different, he's a little darker complected.
Yeah.
It still looks like Cornelius, but you did
a
really good job,
of course,
of making him look like their child.
Right. Yeah.
And I think I think it's the best one he did out of the whole series.
Oh, I do.
It's not necessarily my number one favorite, but it's. I think it's his best
character-wise too. Which eventually they get to. Let's just come right to this. Well, here let's work our way up to the name.
Okay.
Okay. You know.
Yes, because actually his name was Milo. They named him Milo.
So what? So what took?
Because that was the name of the other ape that was with them.
Yeah.
When they landed here in the third one, and he got killed. In the zoo.
Yeah, we overlooked that a little bit.
But what happened?
Escape.
What kind of happens to briefly sum up Conquest, at least to get up to the point where we want to be, is while they're passing out flyers for the circus, they witness an ape being kind of maltreated by the police.
And I think very gut-wrenching, like him seeing all this going on.
Well, right, because he hasn't seen this.
Right.
And he yells out, "Lousy human bastard." Mm-hmm. And
a throwback to phrase, you know, he has his, lousy. Like Charlton Heston had in the original, but anyways, yeah.
Right, yeah, it is. And everybody kind of looks at the ape, and Armando's trying to, make it. I said inhuman.
Yeah.
So Caesar, who's his name's going to be, ends up running off.
Oh, I wanted to.
Well, how he picks his name is
okay. Well, right. Go on.
I'm sorry. I
was building up to a climax.
He runs off. Sorry, they all know this.
No, I know.
They've seen the new ones at least.
I know.
And he runs off.
Yeah.
Armando gets taken in by the police, interrogated.
Yeah,
and they're really bearing down on him. Yeah. They're putting two and two together, realizing he was in the neighborhood around the time that Cornelius and Zero were around. His circus was very close. Maybe he got hold of that child. And they use like a truth.
Some scientific
authenticator. It's called an authenticator.
It comes down over his head to force him to
tell the truth. And instead of telling the truth, he runs and jumps out the window. Commits suicide.
So sad because,
And then,
Milo.
And then Milo
is
he ends up doing what Armando told him to do: sneak into, somehow infiltrate, get in,
gets in a big gigantic case that's with like
orangutans. It's all orangutans.
All orangutans, and
that makes a difference later on.
Right, and they're all like, straight from the wild.
Borneo. I remember.
Yeah,
and they take him to ape conditioning, and he's just doing everything super easy. He's showing the others how to do
I know.
stuff.
I like how he's looking at them and going,
Yeah, looking at the guard while he's wiping and
which is going to get him, number one when it comes to when they sell them as the service, the auction that they have.
And who buys him? But like the president or whatever, whoever
head honcho,
the head honcho in this movie,
a
government head honcho.
Yeah,
and. This is your part that you want.
The best part of the movie for me, because first of all, I love the way Roddy McDowall plays the character in this movie. Mm-hmm. Very, especially after what happens to Armando, but his master tells him he likes all his apes to pick a name.
He said it was a family tradition.
He said
that everybody got to pick their own name, so he's got a name book.
Right.
Baby book, whatever it is.
Yeah. So he takes and starts very slowly, because every action and the way he acts in this movie is Oscar award winning. Anyways, whatever. I mean, he did it great. I
should have got something for that. I mean, the makeup won awards, but it would have been nothing for the actor underneath it.
I mean, as much as I love Cornelius,
and I love Roddy McDowall.
Oh yeah,
I wish he had done more. I mean, he did plenty of. He'd done some horror movies and science fiction movies, but I don't know. I just wish he had done more of like the
Fright Night. I mean,
more of the gothic stuff. Like I could see him doing Hammer movies. And
I know.
He'd have been great in some of those. I would have loved to have seen him in one.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Yeah, that would have been really cool.
Very distinctive voice and look and
But flips the book of names open, and
like he's reading it.
Oh, he's making a wise choice on the name, and he picks out Caesar.
Yes, a king.
And
he looks at him when he does it.
He looks at him when he.
Oh.
And the guy looks at him too.
Yeah, like
a quick glance, like a king. And there's that little glance there, but from that point on. Even to this day, Caesar. I love that name and always think of that role, and Roddy McDowall playing Caesar.
Forget the real Caesar, man.
Right. In Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, that's how much I love this movie.
It's so good. And then the rest of the movie starts to be a build-up.
Him leading.
Building up armaments. What'll happen is, like, if the apes are going marketing or going to the store or picking up a revolver from the gun store for their master, they give them a slip that says what they're picking up, what they're doing.
Right.
And they bring it to him. Mm-hmm. And it's all like they instinctively know he's superior to them.
Right.
Like, they recognize him right away as leader. He'll look at them and they know.
Right.
It's like they can sense his intelligence.
It's a little funny how he if I could say anything about this movie, and God forbid I don't want to say anything negative about the film, is when they do start communicating to each other, it's like, oh my God, do they have ESP or something?
I think it's
because somehow he's getting across messages to all these other apes, with that, but who knows?
I think it's just that I think they just recognize that he's the one, and they know what they have to do.
Oh, very quickly.
Because they're all feeling it, I'm sure. Oh, yeah. But he's the one to lead them.
There's a vibe throughout the whole compound.
Yes, the vibe.
Yeah.
And, they'll bring these notes to him, and he'll add stuff to it, 50 rounds, 100 rounds ammunition, gallon of kerosene, and then instead of taking that extra crap home, they're bringing it to him. And they're keeping these things hidden. Knives, machetes, guns, kerosene, flamethrower, anything that you can fight with. Yeah. And until,
the very ending.
The time happens where, the revolution starts.
Yes.
Where there's the one guy also, he's the aide for the head honcho. What's his name? Breck.
Yeah.
His name is McDonald. Mm-hmm. And he's the one who actually...
He has some sympathy for all of the apes. He's a black character who, again, back in the day, whether it has any significance or not.
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah.
I think it was a perfectly conscious decision to make that character a black character.
I think so, too, yeah.
Because they're walking and sees... I forgot exactly what happened, but he says something to him like, I really wish you could talk, that, because they're hearing about, this ape, and Caesar just says, because it's a private moment, there's no one around, he's like, I'm the one they're looking for, it is me, and he can't believe it, and, he's even trying to talk him out of it, like, what do you think you're going to accomplish? He's like, you of all people should understand, that this is the only means left to us.
Yeah. Because at this point he knows Earth's, he's learned everything from Armando, so Earth's history, and the slavery that went on beforehand. He kind of
knows what the future is going to be.
Right.
Which no one else does. At that, he knows.
So storyline, I mean, it's just perfect, and
it turns into the revolution, the clash, and the cool thing about having this film on Blu-ray now is that they have put out a lot of the violent scenes were cut out, and these have been reintegrated back into the film. You can choose to watch it that way or the original way, and it really just makes a difference. It's a little more bloody. It's not epic or anything like that. No. But it's just good to see more of that, and I really appreciate it.
Because the battle at the end of this movie, the revolution, and them just it's just fantastic and showing up.
There was a big change at the end.
Yeah.
Because Caesar gives his little speech where, basically he's calling for bloody revolution and, kill the humans, down with the humans.
Yeah.
And the studio didn't quite like that harsh tone so much. We had just gotten done with the 60s and race riots and things like that.
Right.
And then we have something like this. And then they added this other monologue in, where all you do is see Caesar's eyes, and he's talking, but, those of us who are not human can afford to be humane, and he's talking about building a world together, and if you watch this extended, uncut, the original version, that's gone. That's not there. That's not supposed to be there. No. It ends with him saying, this day is upon you now, and, that Planet of the Apes music.
Isn't there's a point in the movie too where he introduces the ape will not kill ape in here too?
That's the fifth one.
No, you're right.
It is actually mentioned Let's see.
I thought there was somewhere in this movie, Conquest, where that was brought up, but I could be wrong.
It probably. I mean, you know what? I think it might be. I think it might be.
I mean, because definitely the fifth film. I mean, Caesar.
Yes.
Writes the law. I mean,
it could
puts
have been.
it down.
I can't remember as many times as I've seen these films. I can't remember every line of dialogue.
It was enforced in the fifth film, Battle, which we'll get right onto because that's the ending of the.
Every time one of these movies came out, excuse me, guys, and especially when the last one came out,
that was nice, like Star Wars, right?
Yeah, right. We just love having a Star Wars movie every year now.
Yeah.
They're all shit.
But back then, there was a Planet of the Apes every month. And we're moving right on to Battle for the Planet of the Apes, 1973. But you had something
which was, for the longest time,
yeah,
the end of the series.
Yep.
This one, the quality is definitely lower. This almost feels like a TV movie.
It does. It does. Like this, out of the 5 original,
it's the worst.
And I still love it.
Oh yeah, so do I.
But it is the worst, and it's the lowest budget of all the movies.
Yeah,
you can see
they pretty much just filmed it in the woods.
Yeah, you can see it in the masks and stuff. Even though you see it in the first one,
a bunch of tree houses and mock, matte paintings and.
But Caesar's basically trying to create a world where humans and apes can coexist together.
Not necessarily being equal yet.
Right.
Apes are running the show.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And the gorillas are enforcing.
They're
to a point
the militaries, and they are led by a gorilla played by Claude Atkins, who is an old school actor.
Oh yeah,
and a gorilla named Aldo, who is very aggressive. Now, I have a little theory. So we have Aldo.
Okay.
All right, and we know that there's a lot of friction in this film between Aldo and Caesar.
Okay.
It always makes me wonder if this was the Aldo that was originally supposed to start the revolution way back, and I wonder if, not that he knows it was supposed to be him,
right. No, I got
but I wonder if, because maybe from a timeline perspective, it was supposed to be him, but then it wasn't him, and I wonder if that's why their personalities clash so much.
That's
like maybe he, even though he doesn't know it was supposed to be him,
right,
there's something inside him that feels like it, maybe it should have been him, because he feels like he should be the leader.
Well, I mean,
he eventually he does take over
physically,
for a moment,
more dominant and all that, and you see that throughout the ape films,
right?
That the gorillas are, they're militaristic, and they,
kill the humans,
right?
Shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah. But no, that's a really interesting point, and
that's what I've always thought. Like that's the Aldo that Cornelius was talking about.
Yeah, I could kind of agree with that.
And maybe a little hiccup in time, like you said, and maybe that's why there's this animosity, even though he doesn't necessarily realize why he has it.
Yeah.
Even though Caesar saved them from slavery.
Right.
But a lot of, especially the gorillas in this film, don't like this coexistence with human beings. They're all living together. They're all working
being educated together.
But there's certain things that humans are not allowed to say no to an ape at all.
Right.
So there's even a scene where Aldo, I believe, is throwing a fit in school. Because, and the teacher's a human. Yeah. And the teacher's like, no, Aldo, no. And, oh. And I think Caesar and Paul Williams is in this one. He plays, I can't remember his name in the movie. Oh, it's a philosophical type name. Find it for me.
Oh, Paul Williams, where is he?
Virgil.
Yeah.
Yes. And,
Paul Williams from Phantom of the Paradise fame, and many others.
Music.
And,
he even goes like, I'll put in a good word for you, but don't do that again. And also one of the other, and this, obviously this film's a few years later. The cities have kind of gone to the wayside. They've, kind of died in radioactive rubble. It sounds like someone did push the button and blow off a bomb here and there during the war.
Yeah.
But the apes finally did win out. And so they're living kind of on the outskirts of the city in the rural area, farming, living in tree houses.
Which I think, again,
no machines.
The budget,
No machines, really. Back to like they've kind of reverted back, 200 years in how they do things.
Get away from the human civilization.
Caesar has a son now whose name is Cornelius, young boy. And, basically, apart from the animosity with the gorillas and the tension you feel in the village.
Well, and the main law, ape will not kill ape.
Right. There's the laws. Ape will not kill ape. Humans don't say no to an ape. They're trying to live peacefully, but they're not equal. And Caesar realizes that. And it's a struggle for him. He wants to be equal.
Right.
And see, they're kind of going off the theatrical release of Conquest, where there was that all hopeful speech added in.
Right.
When you take the real cut of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, it kind of makes Battle of the Planet of the Apes not make much sense.
Right.
All right, because they were talking about killing all the humans. Hell with them.
Yeah.
And that was Cornelius's words. so there's a little continuity.
Again, this is very, for the time, I think they were starting to hear, it was the whole race thing and stuff like that. It's this,
it's a metaphor for that,
right? So maybe even the movie
and
company
that's what good science fiction does, though. Good science fiction uses metaphor to teach you things, to get ideas across in a way that's not hammering you in the face like so many films try to do nowadays, where it's so blatant what they're trying to tell you. And treating you like a child.
Right.
That's the true gift of really good science fiction, is to use symbolism and metaphors to
very low key, though.
Right.
I mean,
to get those ideas across. And there's films that do it beautifully. And I think the overall the Planet of the Apes series does it pretty well.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
So Cornelius is just kind of wondering, what can I do? Where can I? I need some wisdom. I need some guidance. And I think it is McDonald that gives him the idea that in the old city, because
McDonald is still alive in this
he's
film,
very close with Caesar. He's an advisor. Kind of like he represents the humans. And tells him in sealed vaults in the old uninhabited. They don't know if it's uninhabited.
Right.
In the old city, there's tapes of your father. Telling about future times and things like that. Maybe we can learn from that. So he and Virgil, I love, they go to get some weapons, and the weapons are held by I think, what's his name? I want to say it was Nicodemus.
I think you're right.
Am I right?
Think you're right. Yeah.
There's an orangutan, a very philosophical. Is there a character named Nicodemus?
Yes. Let's see. It might not even be mentioned on here, though. Because he's a kind of
Mandemus. There
you go. That's
Nicodemus. That's a secret name. But Mandemus, he's an orangutan. He is Caesar's conscience. He guards the armory.
Yeah.
And I love his character because Caesar, knocks on the door. They want to get some weapons for protection to go to the city, and he asks him all these questions. And he's like, can we just get them? He's like, you put me in charge of this to be your conscience, and I have to know what But he finally does agree, to give them some weapons and a Geiger counter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They make their way to the old city, and they do see the tapes. He gets a little information from them, sees his father for the first time on these tapes. But unfortunately, the city is still inhabited. One of them is the police officer that was questioning Armando in Conquest. His name's Culp. And he's still alive. And these guys are kind of mutated. They're, they are the, ancestors of the people that are going to become those mutants from beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Right.
And worship that Omega bomb. Because they even, are wearing some of the same sort of getup and some of the headpiece.
Trying to come full circle here.
Yeah, and you can see they got like some of the blistering going on their faces, radiation sickness going on. They're acclimating to it. They're not dying.
Right.
But some of them are getting sick. But once they realize, hey, Caesar's here, they chase him out of the city, and they decide, we're going to go full-on war and follow them and get a little payback. And it turns into some lame sort of battle. It's not much of a battle. The humans are arriving in school buses and motorcycle. I mean, it's not like the Road Warrior.
No.
That's what it should have been. Something like the Road Warrior.
It's low budget and made for TV kind of movie thing going on.
So much like a made for TV.
Yeah.
And finally, the apes win out. Yeah. But one little subplot we forgot to mention is the gorillas.
Oh, okay.
The gorillas are sitting around. They don't want Caesar. They want the humans dead. They don't want nothing to do with humans. And they're discussing this, Aldo and his comrades sitting around the fire. And just so happens that Caesar's son is out on the trees chasing his squirrel.
Right.
Overhears it.
Yeah.
And Aldo climbs up the tree and ends up cutting the branch, causing Cornelius to fall and later to die.
Yeah.
And, everyone thinks it's an accident at first. McDonald is the one that actually sees the branch, and he sees, knife cuts in it.
Tells Caesar. I mean, he pretty much,
And they kind of put, after the battle, after the humans have been defeated, the mutant humans, this situation has to be dealt with. And it's a real intense ending to the film because they've put it together that it's Aldo who did it. And there's a big showdown between Caesar and Aldo that I really like, with all the apes chanting, ape has killed ape.
Yes,
ape has killed ape. And, they up in the tree.
Yeah, because they start climbing the tree themselves.
And you could see, even though Aldo is stronger, fiercer, and...
Caesar still is very menacing
and intimidates the hell out of him.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I think that's going back to the previous movie, because, and he's just pursuing him like a jungle cat up that tree.
Yeah.
And finally, they don't even really come to blows. He ends up, getting scared and just like falling out of the tree.
Yeah.
Or, he's got his hand and, maybe, has a hand in throwing him off the tree, I guess. But ape has killed ape again, and it kind of ends on a philosophical note. I mean, just are we any better? Can we live in peace? I mean, can we change Can we change the future that there was? And work together and live in peace. And the ending is with the there was always this character that they talk about, the lawgiver. And it's played by John Huston, famous actor, director.
Right.
And it's now maybe a couple hundred years later. And he's telling the story of Caesar. And you see that he's telling it to human and ape children alike. And they're playing together and getting
at the very end,
And there's the statue of Caesar. And you see at the end the little tear coming from his eye, because it worked. We're living together in peace. And peace and harmony.
It was a great way to end the film.
Right.
So, and then they jump a year later.
We get the TV series.
They said, "Hey, let's get some more Planet of the Apes action." But again, whole different storyline.
I think it was kind of burning out.
Yeah.
I think the public was just kind of getting a little OD'd.
Well, the last movie was kind of made for TV-ish, so they you went right.
It
to
was
just,
cool.
Series.
Like I was about to say,
which was short-lived. It just was one short season, and that's
every time a new movie would come out, and they would do this for like James Bond and stuff like that. They'd always bring the other ones out too. Yeah. And I remember in my magazines, my Planet of the Apes magazines, there'd be. They'd show like the movie posters, and they were like drive-ins. Like when Battle for the Planet of the Apes premiered, they would show them all like in one night. Like it would start at like 7:00 and go all night long.
Yeah.
And you could watch all five of them in a row.
I remember that. Yeah.
How awesome!
Heck yeah,
would that have been? If I was a little bit older and could have watched all of them. Stay up all night and watch Planet of the Apes. And, around the time that Battle for the Planet of the Apes came out, that's like when Planet of the Apes started premiering on TV. So it never went away until the 80s. It was still there.
Yeah.
And like you said, we had the TV show, which basically is a couple of astronauts get blasted into the future again.
Played by Ron Hopper, basically Alan Verdon and Peter Burke are the two character names in the film. And it was kind of like a Starsky and Hutch type, like I said, like characters.
And they're trying to find a way.
And Roddy McDowall plays Galen. and
who befriends them.
Kind of a Cornelius, kind of ape-ish kind of character.
Yeah, he befriends them. It's sort of a different timeline
Oh,
in that.
yeah, totally.
I mean, humans talk and everything in it, but they're still subservient.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't seem to carry on from where Battle of the Planet of the Apes ended.
Right. No.
They're not kept in zoos or anything like that, but I mean, they work for the greater good of ape glory. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah.
And just the fact that they come from a future where apes were not in charge makes them, you know, a threat. Mm-hmm. So there's always Ursus, the gorilla, and it's not a Dr. Zaius. It's another character, another orangutan. I can't recall his name.
Yeah. Shoot.
Click it. I'll know it in a second.
Okay. Really quick.
Ursus and oh no, it's not Ursus. Urko.
Urko. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it is.
Played by Mark Leonard.
Yep. Who was from Sarek.
Yeah. Star Trek.
You know what?
Spock's
Never mind.
father.
I guess it is Zaius, but it's not the same Dr. Zaius from Planet of the Apes.
Right. Yeah.
And it's always every episode is about them going from village to village, trying to find a way back home. Galen helping them out. He's their friend and guide. And Urko and Zaius constantly on their tail.
Yeah.
Doesn't have an ending. Just, you know, it was canceled. And, you know, never really had a conclusion. But all the episodes are fair. And I think the makeup, the ape makeup in it is probably better than some of the movies.
Really?
You know, some of the last, at least it's proper, not masks.
Well, I think they kept a lot of the props from
the
movies to
more.
use, so they took the best of the movies and used the props over again and stuff like
then,
that. But
after that, we had a short-lived as well, I think 1 season cartoon series, Return to the Planet of the Apes. Again, you know, astronauts landing in the Planet of the Apes. But what was different in the cartoon series was that they had tanks and cars and helicopters and things like that.
Yeah.
They had technology. It's okay. You can actually, it's on Hulu. I think you can watch it on Hulu. It's there to watch.
Yeah.
And I just remember the guy that did Fred Flintstone's voice did the voice of one of the gorillas.
What was the name? Fred Allen.
Fred Allen, maybe something like that.
Anyways, yeah.
And then all goes quiet.
Yeah,
until 2001.
Planet of the Apes was gone until 2001.
And I kind of wish things had stayed quiet.
Yeah. You know, it's a shame because, eventually in 2001, one of my... I love the guy for what he did with Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, Frankenweenie, and so that, but he went off the deep end with the live-action shit. All those
Planet of the Apes wasn't...
But the Planet of the Apes...
That wasn't for him to do.
No.
And the thing of it is, it's not...
It was at a period where they were trying to, you know, makeup was changing.
Yeah.
You know, CGI stuff was changing, even though it didn't.
You know what I'll give him
play a
props
part
for?
in the movie that much.
At least, I'm not a huge fan.
No,
of the
it's
movie.
a shit show. But anyways, go ahead.
But at least it doesn't completely rehash the story. There's several things that are different. There's interesting twists. You know, the gorillas are the peaceful ones now. The chimpanzees are the militaristic ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, humans talk, of course, but they're still kind of used as servants.
Right. Hell, this one I think
the
I only
ending
seen
of the
once.
movie
That's how
is,
much I didn't like it. But.
The ending of the film at least echoes the original book.
Yeah.
Which, again, we haven't really talked about the book. The book is very different from the films.
Right. Yeah.
But the end of the Tim Burton film does echo the book. Mm-hmm. The ending of the original Planet of the Apes novel.
Which is written by...
Pierre Boulle.
Yeah.
But kind of
had to get that out
the
there,
less said about it, the better. It wasn't.
No.
It wasn't received very well. I saw it opening day, first show of the day. I remember, like 10 in the morning, and just like,
yikes!
Why? I didn't really care for it. I mean, the makeup was good. You know, Charlton Heston even had a little cameo in it as an ape this time.
Right.
But
that's right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it had Chris Christopherson in it. I mean, I don't know. There were things about it that I liked, but overall...
They tried. I think it was just the year that they tried to remake this again. Because, again, you know, in 2011,
10 years later,
you know,
they killed the franchise for a decade.
Yeah,
except for like comic books and things.
They were ready at this point to bring out another Planet of the Apes movie and do it right.
With the longest titles that you could possibly imagine.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes,
Dawn of the Planet, War for the Planet of the Apes.
Well, it's what the old ones were.
I know.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
I don't know. They just seem like really long titles.
But yeah, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, you know,
now, I can only speak for the first 2 films in this trilogy. I have the last one at home. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet. I didn't see it in the theaters. I have it to watch. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
And they keep with the same the name Caesar, which was a great idea.
Yes.
You know, which is very cool.
And there are some things that harken to the original series. To sort of tie it in.
Yeah, a little bit different.
There's a Nova. There's a, you know, I like how the
Easter eggs.
The orangutan is named Maurice after Maurice Evans, who played Dr. Zaius. It's an alright story. It's a, you know, if anything, out of the 2 of them that I've seen, I like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes better. Plus, Gary Oldman's really good in it too. I like him. As well.
I agree that Dawn's a little bit better.
But it just goes to show when you rely on CGI for these characters, it doesn't date very well. Because the first one, when I've watched that, it's just like, even though the motion capture's good, Andy Serkis is the king of that. Mm-hmm. We know that. Just, you know, the technology just.
Still wasn't there, but
it doesn't.
In defense,
well, it is there if you put the money into it. Because if you watch Lord of the Rings, Gollum looks fantastic.
True.
There's scenes in that movie where I swear to God, it almost looks like a puppet. But you got to put the money into it. You got to put the effort into it. And make it look good.
I agree.
And
apes are a little tougher, though. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
You know what? I'm sure hair is a little harder to do.
Yeah.
But you know, if you put the time and the effort, and you got the right people doing it, like Peter Jackson did, at least in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it can be done, and it can stand the test of time, in my opinion.
I just for re-hitting,
but story-wise, they're fair. They're not bad. I didn't think they were insulting to the original films at all.
No, and that's what I was worried about. I mean, because I love that first 5 in the TV series so much, that era, that remaking it is a big undertaking, and they went with it different. Mm-hmm. So much so that,
but again, just not a rehash, just a completely original
that
story.
I really was surprised that I really enjoyed it.
You know, the
all 3 of the films.
John Lithgow trying to help cure his Alzheimer's, and then the effect that it had on the chimpanzee child.
Yeah.
It's an interesting take, and it's how everything transpires makes sense. It's all legit. I still just have to watch the last one, which I will. But
that was great too. But
I don't love them like the originals. But I got no reason to hate on them either.
No,
except for some of the dodgy CGI that I'm just not a fan of because I'm old school.
It gets better each movie. Like Dawn was a little bit.
That's
better.
Why I said Dawn looked better.
War was better, even
probably
more so.
Probably just from the trailer alone. I mean, and I can't believe I haven't seen it yet. I just what. I got 3 kids and a job, and I just don't always have time.
And it don't hit you as hard as the original. Right. You guys know us.
Sometimes I feel like I'm cheating if I watch the new ones. It's like I want to watch the old ones.
We love the old school everything.
Conquest but if you're a fan of the old ones, pick up that Blu-ray set. Because you can get the uncut. There's even an extended version.
My ranking in a second.
Oh, yes. You can even get an extended version of Battle for the Planet of the Apes if you want. You almost can't even tell what's extra in it. But it's worth it alone for the Conquest one. And, if you're a fan of the other stuff, read the book. Check out the old TV shows if you can. And, it's just a great series. It was my first, besides Star Wars, it was like my next favorite movie as a little kid growing up. I had to watch Planet of the Apes when it was on. I had to watch King Kong when it was stuff with apes in it. Seems I loved my monster movies, and I just lumped those in there with them too. Creature movies.
No, I hear you.
So ranking.
So really quick, the ranking. I mean, it's kind of not a big deal because. Probably a lot of people have the same list, but mine's a little bit different. You would think I would go with the original first, but Conquest is my number one. Just something about Caesar.
I can't argue with you.
The way he portrays that character in the movie is just, I love it. And
I can't argue with it.
Yes. So I'm going to go. Number one is Conquest. Number two was tough, believe it or not, but I am going to go with the original Planet of the Apes.
Fair.
Number three, I am going to do Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I know, a little controversial with you especially,
No.
But I like the whole coming to Earth thing and how that worked out and stuff like that. And then you got my number fourth pick is Beneath, and then of course Battle comes in fifth, and then not the TV series, that's a whole separate issue. But then I'm going to go with the newer Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And then War of the Planet of the Apes and Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And then, lastly, Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Which I had to put it on the list because it was part of the Planet of the Apes movies. But
it's not the worst piece of swill in the world.
Well,
I mean, I've seen worse movies than that. I watched the worst movie in that today. But
let's not go there.
No.
But no, so that's my ranking.
That's your ranking.
Yeah. So the surprise part of my ranking was, I guess, for the most part, is that Conquest is there and not the original.
That's easy to do, though, because mine's not too much different. You just reverse the top two for me. Right. I will put the first one first because it had the biggest impact on me. If they never made any other Planet of the Apes movies, it stands as a great story.
Agree.
And, the Academy Award-winning makeup, I have the soundtrack at home. Just the whole world building.
You have your vinyl album?
No, I got the CD. But just the world building that it built, and a lot of science fiction movies don't do a good job of that.
Yeah.
So I always put the original first in my ranking.
Right.
Then I would put Conquest, my next favorite one, for all the reasons that you stated. Third, I like Beneath, so I'm putting that one next. Escape will be my fourth one, only because. Some of it I find a little hokey, like taking Cornelius to a boxing match.
Probably what I liked about
Zira speaking at the women's club, saying, what did she say it there? She's like, a marriage bed is for two, but it's every damn morning the woman has to make it. We have heads as well as hands. I call on men to let us use them. I mean, just.
There was a lot of women's
lib stuff.
No, I know. Even drinking the champagne.
Oh god, grape juice plus.
Yeah.
Remember when she's taking a bath?
Yeah.
And they don't take baths, and she's in the bathtub, the bubble bath, and Cornelia says, how is that? She's like, very soothing, but very wet. Yeah. And then Battle at the end of my top five there.
Right.
I'll probably do the new trilogy next, like you did yours.
Yeah.
Like Dawn, War, Rise. I only put Rise last because
the CGI.
The CGI is a little dodgy to me, and it takes a little while to get the story
right
to where you want it to go.
Not the origin, but yeah.
Right, it's the origin story. It's not as exciting as the other ones.
Yeah.
I'll eventually get to War eventually, but I'm sure I'll like it.
Yeah.
And then, Tim Burton's last. I mean, I'd probably even put the two TV series before Tim Burton's in there, too. Or maybe even before the newer trilogy. Maybe not the cartoon series, but the
if I was clumping
TV series.
If I was clumping in a TV series, it would be before the newer movies, too.
Yeah.
I love... But just because it's clumped in
maybe
with the old...
cartoon series after the new series before Burton's.
There you go.
The cartoon series is pretty cheesy.
Yeah.
But there was, there was just Apes Mania. Back when we were just little types.
Man.
There were toys.
I had Planet Apes lunchbox.
Lunchboxes. I got pictures of me with the toys.
The toys you had too? Man, I
Comic
don't
books,
have those.
The magazines.
So pissed.
Everything. They had the Mego figures, those style figures.
Yeah. Like the Star Trek figures.
Yeah.
Mego
anything. They had them all. They had every character.
Yeah, Mego came out
superheroes and everything. Mego had everything.
Yeah.
We could do a whole show on Mego.
There you go.
I think Comic Book Men did. They did a whole show on Mego.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So, it was a huge deal when we were first coming up. And, throughout the whole 80s when they would show them on TV. And then, kind of like Star Wars in the 90s, it all just sort of died out. And there was nothing.
Yeah.
It was a dark time.
It was an encapsulated.
And then after 2001, it was 10 years of nothing. But it has lived on in comic books and novels and things like that. So if you're a comic book fan and stuff like that, there's been Planet of the Apes comic books like that whole time.
And there's always...
Planet of the Apes meets Star Trek, Planet of the Apes meets anything you can think of. It's been all over the place. So... I know not necessarily horror themed, but I'll tell you what, if I landed on a planet where humans were dumb and apes were running the show, I'd be pretty goddamn scared. What the hell would you do in a situation like that? I'd say that's got more horror in it than some horror movies I've seen.
Yeah, no. It's the late horror show, and
we're monster kids, man. Maybe you like the horror movies more than I do, but I'm a monster kid, and I love my creatures. I love all that stuff. That's where my heart is.
I agree.
I love my Planet of the Apes movies, and
we can throw sci-fi in here every now and then.
It was so much fun to talk about these movies for an
hour. And we did do, actually, a couple years ago, a full commentary on the original Planet of the Apes.
I had all kinds of cool info on that movie
there. So go check that out if you're...
Cue it up with your movie.
Yeah. Go check out the commentary. But I wanted to encapsulate an episode of all of the Planet of the Apes universe.
Yes.
And do kind of a ranking type thing. And just have fun talking about the Planet of the Apes. You know?
I remember one of my magazines.
One of my favorites of all time.
One of the Planet of the Apes magazines did a poll of their ranking of the Planet of the Apes. It was very close to yours. It was the first one, Conquest, Escape, Beneath, Battle. So it was kind of, except for the first two. It was just like your list.
No, and those, I could see, both arguments on,
I think most fans will say, the first one or Conquest are the best ones. Yeah. And how rare is that for like the fourth one being, one of the best ones, in any series.
Right, but yeah.
There you go.
Because it takes a whole different sharp turn, and it's
that's one
the
thing
introduction
about those
of
movies.
Caesar, and...
especially the third and fourth films took the series and turned them all around.
I mean, that was the most... Well, I'm going to say that was the most serious of the five. You know what I'm saying?
Most violent, the most
hard-hitting kind of, But, yeah. So there you go,
the most doom and gloom in a G-rated movie.
So there you go. The Planet of the Apes. And I haven't said anything in a long time about anything, and I'm waiting till the end of the show to do it. I think I'll start hitting this at the beginning of the show. We have a Patreon. The link's down there if you want to support. We do plan on getting out. I do. Shut up.
I'm not paying Treon.
Getting more content and stuff out there. So check out the links below to the Patreon, to our other pages, all that good stuff on Twitter and everything. You got something going on there?
No.
So there you go. Until next week, man. We never know what we're gonna do. If you have any comments, put them down below.
Sure.
Always appreciate those.
I'll holler back.
Yeah, we always do.
As long as you're polite.
Convert. So until next time, you guys. Peace.